The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. We're talking ads and drops for this week, giving you the best fantasy advice you can possibly get. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show.
Play ball!
Welcome in to an all-new edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show, presented by Belly Up Fantasy Sports and Righteous Felon Jerky. I'm your host, Vince Stover, and I'm joined by the senior Belly Up Fantasy Baseball writer, the one and only Kevin Wilson. Hey, Kev. How you doing on this fine Sunday?
I'm doing great now. I've been freed from my work obligations, and I am where I'm supposed to be. So I am happy now and ready to get started.
It sounds like you're saying I don't pay you enough, so you got to work another job.
That's right.
Well, we do want to say hello to our live viewers watching on the Sports Stove YouTube page and the Belly Up Fantasy Facebook page, and all those listening later via the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are having an abbreviated version of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show tonight. We came on a little bit later than normal. We had Kevin was working a little bit earlier, and we had a guest planned that something came up and they could not come on anymore. And I've been gone this weekend, so I didn't have anything else prepared. So we said, well, we'll just start a little later and still give out some fantasy advice and things like that. And then our guest will hopefully be on with us in a later date as well. So we're skipping the Fantasy Burner segment. We're skipping the Call to the Pin segment. But I will mention, typically, our Fantasy Burner segment is presented by Mahler Bros Golf. You can go to mahlerbros.com. Use code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off. It's golf apparel. They've got other things as well, but some stylish shirts and things like that. So go visit Mahler Bros Golf. That's MAHLERBROS.com for 15% off your purchase. And our guest segment is typically presented by Righteous Felon Jerky, and you can go there, righteousfelon.com. Use that same code, BELLYUP, 15% off your purchase there. They've got some great flavors. I absolutely love the texture of their jerky and appreciate their support. But today we're jumping right in to our Fantasy Focus segment. So let's do it. Our Fantasy Focus segment is presented by BellyUpFantasySports.com, your one-stop shop for all things fantasy sports, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL, NBA, and I'm sure that I'm forgetting something, but there's all kinds of fantasy articles there you can go visit and read, including Kevin's most recent article that just dropped, Week 8 waiver wire additions there on BellyUpFantasySports.com as well.
Which
I want to start.
Interestingly enough, ties right into what we're doing right here. So
it ties exactly. And now I haven't read it yet. I was going to click on it, and I thought, nope, we're going to have a show tonight. I'm going to wait, hear what he says, and then I'll go read about all the other things that are in the article as well. I do want to give a quick update, though, on our fantasy league, the Sports Stove Fantasy Show League. As coming into this week, my dad undefeated. He's going to remain that way. Kevin Wilson, 5-1 on a 3-game win streak. He's going to extend that to 4 games and head to 6-1. I am finally making my run. It took me. I had a slow start, but I'm picking up now. I'll be at 3-4 as of tomorrow, and then we will continue to build. Nathan Nguyen is hanging out at the bottom. And shout out, by the way, to Mike Brown, co-founder of BellyUpSports.com. He's holding in at this point of the season as well. So good for him. Last year, his team.
Unfortunately for him, he went up against me this week. So
yes.
So his,
he's tied with me.
Mike. I couldn't, be gentle. All right.
Yes. So that's okay. That's all right. He's looking respectable this year, and we can always appreciate that. But I got to give it to Dad. I spent the weekend with my dad. We went down to Tennessee together, and he was appreciative of the shout out we gave him last week. He continues to dominate. He is going to win against a good team this week. Drew Child's team has had a good year so far as well. So, but Dad's still undefeated, and we still haven't had him on this show, but he's doing well. And and he's lighting things up. All right, let's get into our ads and drops this week as we are now 2 months into the season. And I think we basically know who everybody is now.
That's right.
The teams are, there's some teams that are still overachieving that we assume will eventually kind of fall off. But generally speaking, I think we're aware of what the teams are, which in my opinion helps in fantasy baseball because you're not like, wow, this Pirates, for example, went on this crazy run here early in the season, and it was good to have some Pirates on your team. Well, now not quite as much because they are who we thought they were in the terms of Dennis Green. So,
Right.
who do you got?
Mention that because I'm not going to bring them up while we're talking right here, but there is a Met in my article that I bring up because the Mets are starting to round into what we thought they might be.
Sure.
And so if you're looking at some Mets players, that might be the way to go.
And this is off topic, but in another league I'm in, a trade went down this week. Outfielder Brandon Nimmo straight up for pitcher Sandy Alcantara.
There's zero chance I would, if I had Sandy out. I know he hasn't pitched very well.
Yeah.
But I would not be trading him, not for Brandon Nimmo. That's not going to happen.
Me neither. I did not veto it. I am the commissioner in that league. I let it go. And actually, I saw the guy that received Alcantara this weekend while I was in Tennessee, and he told me, he said, "Hey, I was offered that trade." He said, "I did not make the offer. I was offered the trade, and I surely accepted it." I said, "I get that." So we'll give it to him.
So I couldn't get to the button fast enough. If that was
right. All right. Let's get into our ads and drops. Let's start with the ads this week. Who we're adding to the roster, or who other people should add to the roster as well. We'll give you the first swing at it there, Kev.
Okay, so the player that I think that is the most interesting one to add has to be Christopher Morel of the Chicago Cubs.
Okay.
And so, and he was a player that I thought might have some things going on before the season began. He started in the minors, though. But ever since he got called back up, he has a hit in every game that he's played. All right. So, including today. So that makes 11 games, 11 hit games he's had. He's hitting, coming into today, a blistering 381. And he has 7 homers. He has 13 RBIs. He has a 409 on base percentage. And so in his last 7, he has 5 home runs. So he is as hot as they come. And he's at 40.8% owned as of today. That's gone up 27% over the last week or so. So if you're interested in Christopher Morel, you better jump now. And if you're in our league, don't bother because I already added him.
He's already playing.
That's right. And he's a second baseman and outfielder. So that is a nice combination to have. So hot bat, multi-dimensional player. So he is my must-add player of the week.
And he's done it against good opponents, right? St. Louis, Minnesota, Houston, Philadelphia. So solid, decent pitching and things like that. He's looked really, really sharp to start off the season. I like that addition. You're right. He is gone in our league, sadly, but
I know he's gone because I have him.
You've got him. My guy is a recent acquisition for the New York Yankees. Greg Allen, outfielder for the Yankees. He was actually in the Boston minor league system. He has been on a tear in the AAA this year, 16 RBIs, 25 runs, 23 stolen bases, all of that in just 116 at-bats. So he has been looking really solid in AAA. The Yankees sent down Aaron Hicks for assignment and brought in Greg Allen through trade. And I think he's worth taking a swing on if you need an outfielder. He's available. He's only like 1% owned, so he's available. Okay. And there's a little bit of the unknown with him, but he's 30 years old, so he's not young. But he's been stealing bases like crazy in AAA. So he can provide some spark for you there, and Cats leagues especially. But even in a points league, Greg Allen has been able to do a little bit here and there just to get things started. It's only been 2 games that he's played, as he just was recently called up. So I'm looking right now. He had 5 points today, a stolen base and a run, and he had a run in his first game yesterday. So he's producing early on, and an opportunity there if you're looking for an outfielder, a guy that's available pretty much everywhere at this point.
And so if you're talking about teams that are rounding into form, the Yankees certainly qualify.
Sure.
Because they were in last place.
Yeah.
I think, wasn't it last week when we talked?
Yeah, I think
That's
so.
not the case now. So he's hitting in a great lineup, so I like that pickup a lot.
Yeah. All right, who else you got?
So the next player that I have is one that I actually drafted, and one you asked me about. Why are you doing that? And I'm not really sure, but I dropped him. But now he is back on the scene, and that's Danny Jansen, the catcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. And he's at only 15% owned, but he has kicked Alexander, what's his name? His catching buddy over there, Kirk.
Yeah.
He has kicked him to the curb. He is out hitting him. He's outperforming him. So he is the guy in the starting lineup. And so in his last 7 games, Jansen's hit .308. He has 2 homers, 7 RBIs. He has a 7-game hit streak and 21 fantasy points during that time. So if you have a catcher that puts up 21 fantasy points in a single week, that is somebody that you're going to want to pay attention to. And so go ahead and pick him up if you need help. And like I said, he's 15% owned. So go out and get him.
I'll tell you, catchers have been, in my opinion, generally a disappointment this season. Wilson Contreras for the Cardinals, he's had good moments, of course, and he's doing okay right now. Adley Rutschman leads the fantasy points. Sean Murphy's second, Will Smith's third, Salvador Perez fourth, and then you got Jonah Heim from Texas is fifth right now. So there's a lot of
have been slow to climb upon the board, the Jonah Heim train.
Yes,
and he's another player. I think he's pretty owned, but I'd have to check on that. If he's out there, he's another guy. And a guy that's in my article is Moreno for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need a catcher, there's one also that you might want to take a look at.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. There are 2 catchers, top 10 in points so far on the season that are available in our league. Elias Diaz from Colorado and Keibert Ruiz from Washington. That's total points on the season. But more recently, in the last week, they're still up there. They're in double-digit points for the last week. But that's the problem with these catchers this year. They've been so crazily fluctuating. I mean, JT Realmuto is 12th in points in catchers. No, I'm sorry, 8th in points in catchers right now. Varsho is down outside of the top 10.
Boy, talk about somebody we missed the boat on with him,
yeah.
Varsho.
Yeah.
And so if you've got him,
it's been weird. Catchers have been weird. If
been
your catcher's not doing good, go get somebody else.
A Colorado Rocky.
Yeah.
And so you don't want him when he's on the road.
Agree. I don't want him when he's home, honestly.
Well, any Rockies player that you could look at while they're at home, but you better jettison them as soon as the plane leaves the tarmac.
Yeah. Now, here's a guy that we talked about a lot in the preseason that has not really produced up until he looks like he's starting to produce now. Outfielder for Miami, Brian De La Cruz. Everybody was in on De La Cruz.
I asked him about him this very day. So go ahead.
Did you? Yeah. He is again, his season didn't start great, but in the last week, he's taken off 2 home runs. He has 4 doubles, a stolen base also. That was before today's game. So he's producing 28 points in our league just in the last week. Things are coming around for Brian De La Cruz, and he is available. 6.1% of leagues is all that he's owned in right now. I don't necessarily need him in our league, so I don't have him in our league, but he's a guy that is starting to produce. So he's on my watch list for, hey, if I need an outfielder, I want to look and see what he's doing. He might be the guy for me.
Can't argue with that at all.
Who else you got?
Okay, so another player that I have that is only 8.6% owned, that's Enrique Hernandez.
Oh, yeah.
The shortstop and outfielder from the Boston Red Sox. And, of course, he's a former Dodger, so got to give him, some props out there. But in his last 7 games, he's hitting 364. He's on a 4-game hit streak. He had a hamstring issue that made him miss 3 games, but since he's returned from that issue, Hernandez has hits in his last 3 games. He has a shortstop and outfielder combination. And so just like with Morel, that is a nice thing to have. Someone that you could put in shortstop, someone you could put in the outfield and shortstop, second base, and utility. And so he's a guy that I initially was like, I don't know. But he's proven me wrong. And, I'll come out and say, hey, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But right now, I'm right with him. So if you go ahead, if you need a shortstop and an outfielder, then you just add him and you correct both problems all in one move.
Yeah, he's a guy. I've had him on a roster. I don't think in our league, but I've had him on a roster this year and dropped him. And I keep an eye on him. He's one of the guys I look at because, again, they got some flexibility with position. Plus, you got a guy who's been around for a little while, so it's not like he's an unknown product or anything like that. And I like him as a streamer right now in leagues for sure. I got a pitcher from Baltimore, and Baltimore's relievers have actually been really solid this year. I've got one of them on my team, Yennier Cano, and that's in a points league. Their relievers are scoring more than their starters in many cases, with the exception of Kyle Bradish. But the pitcher that I've got is Dean Kremer. I picked him up this week. He was released
I wrote
in the league
about him last week.
There you go. So I'm behind. I'm behind then, but 9.3% owned. He's 5-1 on the season. He has a 4.94 ERA, but that's coming down. There's more recent games
coming down over his last 4 starts.
Yeah, 4 starts. So his last 4, he's won. He's got 36 strikeouts. He had coming into the day 17 innings pitched, 16 Ks, only 4 runs allowed, only 4 walks as well. This is a guy that is producing on a good team in the AL East. It's a tough division. You want to pay attention to who he's starting against.
He's pitched against tough opponents.
True.
And has pitched well against them.
His best game came against Washington, but he did well against Tampa, Atlanta, and the Angels as well. So again, to me, it's you need to watch who he's up against. You don't want to. I see him more as a streamer than a guy you're going to carry on your roster, but he's a good streamer, someone you can bring in the right situation. He is owned in our league by the defending champion, Dan D'Amico, but I am streaming him in another league, and he's been really helpful to me. So Dan Kremer is my pitcher that you need to add this week.
All right, so I have a pitcher as well, and I want to make something crystal clear right off the bat. I'm going to say go ahead and add him, but Tuesday he pitches in Colorado, and you don't want that. And the pitcher that I'm talking about is the one who went from AA straight to the major leagues. He's started 2 games so far. I'm talking about Yuri Perez.
Okay.
And he is a young guy. He's got an electric arm. He's at 32% owned. Of course, he pitches for Miami. And so anything that you're looking for, this guy, he'll get you the strikeouts and everything else. But you do not want to pitch a guy who is making his 3rd major league start in Colorado. All right. So I just want to make sure that's clear. I've got him, Perez. I added him before he even made his first start, and I don't regret adding him at all. And like I said, 32% owned, so people are waking up to him. So if you're in a league that's not ours, but if you want to go ahead and maybe hold off until he clears that Colorado game, or if you've got bench space, go ahead and add him today. But I'm not advocating in any way, shape, or form pitching Perez in Colorado.
Okay. But he's a good guy to watch, a good guy to add.
He certainly is, because like I said, he's young, he's got it, he's got all the pitches.
Yeah. I like it. Now, I don't have anybody else to add. Do you have anybody else that we need to add?
One more guy, and I want to make something else really clear here too, because when I was doing my research, I'm talking about Logan Allen from the Cleveland Guardians.
Okay.
And so there is a Logan Allen who also pitches for the Colorado Rockies. That is not whom I'm speaking of now.
Okay.
I'm speaking of Logan Allen from the Cleveland Guardians. All right. So he's 11.9% owned. He pitched against the White Sox the other day, 5 2/3 innings, 1 run on 7 hits, 5 strikeouts, and 1 walk. And he faces that same Chicago White Sox team this week, only he's facing them at home this time. So I like that a lot. So if you read my article, I cover that a little bit more. But Logan Allen, go out, get him, pick him up. I like him this week a lot.
Very good. Very good. All right, let's get into some drops this week.
Drop.
Okay.
I'm sure you got some. I know I have some.
I've got 2. I'm going to let you go first on this one too. Who we need to get rid of?
So the drops, and I can't believe that we're talking about him, because we both, I think, were very high on him simply because he was going to the Houston Astros, and I'm talking about Jose Abreu. Okay, and so we're in late May now, and as you mentioned, we know who players are, and he's at 63% owned, and this is what you're getting: no home runs, 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored. Right, that's what he's done in his last 13 games. Okay, you do not need a first baseman at 63% owned that has 3 RBIs going on almost 3 weeks now.
Right.
And so everybody's been waiting for him to get hot. It is not happening. So therefore, I am parachuting out the back of the plane. and so Jose Abreu can go ahead and carry on in his mission, but I'm bailing out.
Yeah. See, so I'm not against that necessarily. I am so patient with guys that are supposed to be good. For example, MJ Melendez this year, he's not been good at all. 57 points so far on the year, but I have not dropped him because I know he's supposed to be good. So I'm giving him time to hopefully find his range. Christian Yelich, same thing. He started off slow again, turned things around a little bit. Ty France is a guy that I've got. I'm not letting him go. And I've seen him in other leagues pop up and become available. Actually, I think I added him in this league because somebody dropped him. No, I drafted him. But I picked him up in a different league because somebody dropped him. Those are the guys that I'm going to go out and get, and I'm going to try to be patient with as long as I can until I get to so desperate where I say, okay, never mind. I got to be done with these guys. And Abreu is one of those guys, my goodness. I mean, there's value in first baseman. You can find first baseman. There are guys out there doing things that are good. And, I think first base is deep enough where Abreu, if he's not producing, it's time to.
Here we are. He's got 38 fantasy points.
That's crazy.
That's crazy to me. He'd have 38 points in previous years in a month.
Yeah. Sure. In a week, probably.
In a week, in 2 weeks. He's got 38 points. Another player I could have put on my ads list is Naylor for Cleveland. He plays first base. He's got 83 fantasy points.
I'm looking real quick to see.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at too. So if you're needing a first baseman, and maybe you could package him and get somebody to believe he's the Jose Abreu of old.
Yeah,
and
I like
you
that.
can get somebody to bite that into that sandwich, then go ahead and make yourself a trade.
Yeah.
So
I like that a lot. I think putting Abreu out on the trade block Could get a nibble, and depending on the league that you're in, especially if you got an Astro fan or an old Abreu fan, that's followed him for years and loved him. You can get something for him, at least something useful for him, based
Right.
off of what he has been. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I've got an outfielder from Philadelphia, Brandon Marsh. This is a guy that I liked coming into the season, and he has not produced this year. He is, let's see here. He has only 2 RBIs in the month of May. That's painful.
That's painful when you have 2 more RBIs than I do.
He has 0 points. 0 home runs. Also in the month of May, 3 points in the last week. He is on a roster in our league, and I'm looking at the outfielders out there. I'm going, he's just not the guy I'm hanging on to. 20% owned in ESPN leagues. He's got 80 points total on the year. Those all came early in the season. So I'm letting go of Brandon Marsh at this point.
Okay. I have no problems with that. A couple pictures I'll throw in here real quick. One is James, and I've never been able to figure out what this dude's name is. Jamison Talion?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, anyway. 0-3 with an 8.10 ERA and a 1.73 whip. Is there really anything else that needs to be said about him? Maybe in his last 4, he's given up 17 runs and 12 2/3 innings.
Wow. And where's he at now?
He pitches for the Cubs.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the Cubs offense is pretty decent this year, but if you're going to give up 17 runs and 12 2/3 innings, I don't think it's going to work out very well. So, and even worse, he has 1 strikeout in each of his last 2 games.
Oh, wow.
There are relievers that have more strikeouts than that in their last 2 appearances. So it's ugly. I'm sorry. He needs to go.
That is rough. I pulled him up real quick. -12 against Philadelphia and 2.1 innings. Oh, man. He had 2.2 innings against St. Louis a few starts ago, 3 innings against Washington. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
If you go 3 innings, if you're a reliever in 3 innings, that's fine against Washington. If you're a starter, then no, you've got to hit the waiver swamp. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you got to be better. I got another shortstop, the kid from Colorado, Ezequiel Tovar. I liked him earlier in the season. He was hitting. He was doing some good things. But then he's kind of fallen off. Here's his last several opponents. Versus Pittsburgh, he had 1 point in the series. Versus Philadelphia, 1 point in the series. Versus Cincinnati, 0 points in the series. Versus Texas, 0 points in the series. He's not been good this month. He's really struggled the last several weeks. And he's a guy that I'm going to keep an eye on still because he's young and he's exciting to watch. And he plays in Colorado. So when he's got home games, there's always potential. But at this point, I'm moving on from Tovar. He can't be on my roster.
No, I agree with that 100%. He's got to go.
All right. You got somebody else?
Just one guy real quick. Graham Ashcroft is a lot of, people were up on him.
Yeah.
Cincinnati. Well, you need to step off of that.
Yeah.
Because, all right, so he has a 4.84 ERA, which is bad enough. But in his last 3, he's given up 15 runs in his last 12 1/3 innings. He gave up 7 to Colorado, which, okay, maybe you can live with that. Probably not. But then he gave up 8 runs to the Chicago White Sox, and their offense is in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to Colorado in Colorado. So, and as if that wasn't bad enough, we talked about St. Louis. St. Louis is on the total rebound. That's who his next start is against at home in the launching pad that is in Cincinnati. So nothing to do with Graham Ashcroft whatsoever.
The Cincinnati Reds are Cincinnati Redding again. They have fallen to the bottom of the division, 4-game losing streak. St. Louis, you just mentioned it, man. They
beat the Dodgers 3 out of 4, and they beat your and I have to apologize because last week I talked about a certain St. Louis pitcher, right? Don't want anything to do with him. All he did, it was what shut your guys out on 3 hits.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
that's happens.
They won 2 against the Cubs. They swept the Red Sox. They won 2 against the Brewers, and then they won 3 of the 4 against the Dodgers. They're hitting stride, and they are striking back fast. And the way that Milwaukee's been playing, they'll catch up to them pretty quickly. Although Milwaukee looked good today, but man, yeah, I was looking at that this week. I was working on my power rankings, which are up on bellyupsports.com right now. And I just, the way I do my power rankings is per week. So it's not ranked for the season. It's how they did last week. And so the Cardinals jumped way up the board after going 8 of 2 of their last 10. The Dodgers, of course, have gotten control of the NL West. The East is all the Atlanta Braves, even though, the Mets have had a really good week as well. There's a long climb for them. Philadelphia, they just may be the most disappointing team in Major League Baseball. And that's in a league where the Angels exist. I don't know. I think the Phillies, they've got all this talent. And man, talk about underachieving. They're 7 games back right now, minus 28 in the run differential. They're below
Philadelphia. You can't be minus 28 with that offense.
No,
you just can't have that.
And even that defense, I mean, even the pitching, you should have good enough pitching where you're not getting crushed.
And so, and we thought, well, maybe he's pitching for his deal.
Yeah,
maybe he'll be all right. Well, guess what?
Not so far. So far. What about Houston? 7-game win streak. Rangers still in first, but Houston's marching. And Altuve,
here they come.
Yeah, Altuve came back this week. I was able to take him off the injured list. I drafted him in a league and been stashing them and finally been able to put them up. I'm pretty excited about that. Detroit, how about Detroit? They're second in the division. They're ahead of Cleveland. They lost their last 2, but they've had a decent week as well, so they're still marching along as well. It's going to be interesting, some of these divisions, as we get further into the season, to see who's actually going to battle for these.
That's right. And so when you say that they're second in the division, you have to, add the caveat that nobody else besides Minnesota has a winning record in that division.
Right.
So maybe they can climb out of that hole because it's not that deep to begin with.
Minnesota has the same record as the last place team in the AL East.
Yeah, so I know you guys were going to talk about the AL East today, and that was sure was going to be a sub. They are in last place in their division, and put them in the Central, and they're first.
Yep. It's crazy, but it's fun at the same time. It's fun to see the teams go. Yes, yeah, and it's a long season, so people have time to make up some ground on some of these divisions and things like that. Tampa's still holding on strong in their division, although Baltimore is right on their heels, and they had a heck of a week.
Coming, and the Yankees are coming, so
hold on.
Hold on to your hats.
Hold on to your hats. All right, so this has been an abbreviated version of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show, presented by Belly Up Fantasy Sports, Righteous Felon Jerky, and Mahler Bros Golf. He's Kevin Wilson. You can find him on Twitter at Kevin62, WILSEA, and all of his articles are up on bellyupfantasysports.com. And again, he just dropped an article today, I believe, correct?
Correct.
The waiver wire.
Just about an hour ago.
Okay, that's right. It was about 7 o'clock.
Maybe a little bit over an hour ago, but yes.
Yeah, it's about 7 o'clock, I think. That's when I saw it, at least. So catch all his stuff there. Kevin does. He's on the Dynasty Football Show, Fantasy Football Show on Sunday mornings, typically. Of course, he's here on Sunday nights with us as well. And he'll pop into other shows here and there, but his articles are always there on Belly.
I believe that there's a basketball super show that's coming up on the 31st.
Oh, okay.
The finals, from the NBA are coming up. And they're starting that a little early because, I'm in Central Time frame over here.
Sure.
And they want to start it at 5 o'clock. I can't do that. So I'm not sure what time that's going to start. There's probably details still to come, but I plan on being on that show at some point.
Okay. Yeah, and you can talk about the Nuggets and the Heat because for some
That's
reason
right.
Celtics decided they didn't
I'm
want to
glad
show
that
up.
I won't be talking about the Lakers. I'm happy about that.
Let's hope. Let's just hope that nothing crazy happens.
So the Lakers can stop making a mockery of the regular season, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And so they can make a mockery of it from home from here on out.
Sure, why not? I am on Twitter as well and Instagram at Sports Stove. You can follow me there. I'll be live again Wednesday night at 8:00 with my dad. He'll join me. We talk all things sports. I think I've got at least one more local hour show dropping this week. Hopefully, Eastern Kentucky University is in the ASUN tournament. They play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday.
That's right. The college baseball tournaments are active.
Yeah, it's coming. So we'll see how that shakes down. If things go well, I'm hoping to get someone on Friday to record to talk about the ASUN tournament, but we'll see how things go and go from there with that. So just stay tuned to the Sports Stove podcast. And all the information.
Just stay tuned.
All right, Kev, anything else you need to add?
Just one thing to add real quick that because I'm in Texas over here, and Corey Seager made his way back.
Yeah.
And I saw that a lot of people are dropping Ezekiel Duran. That's a mistake.
Okay.
It's a mistake because Bruce Bochy has said he is going to stay in the lineup, and he has hit his way onto the lineup. So, and he's going to be third base, shortstop. He's going to be all over the place.
Okay.
So, just one last bit of advice: don't drop Ezekiel Duran.
And me and Kevin are both Manny Machado owners in leagues. And
so he's on the IL.
That hurt.
He got hit on the hand.
Yeah.
The other day, and I appreciate them, putting them on the IL,
right?
And not letting them, just kind of free float out there.
Yep.
Because he was day to day, and I'm like, come on, day to day helps me none whatsoever.
Yes. So we do appreciate.
But they did put him on the IL, which, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it works sometimes. But next week we'll come on. We'll have another guest on for you. I might try to get back. We'll talk off the air. Might have the injured list back on and talk about the injuries and things like that. We'll see how the week goes. But looking forward to having a guest next week.
There are quite a few players we can talk about in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. And there's guys that are on the verge of coming back as well. Be good to know kind of what to expect from them. So tune in next week to hear that and more. Thank you for tuning in to the day's edition of the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. Go to righteousfelon.com and MahlerBros.com. Use code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off your purchase on either of those websites. Kevin, thank you.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful for the people that actually join us.
Yes,
and so appreciate it.
Yes, very much so. And to your boss, thank you for letting Kevin come home tonight. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll see you around the Sports Stove.